Hello everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to my dear friends, respected teachers and students for encouraging us to keep holding Voices of History Young Scholars at Work online lecture session. I am Tanmoy Malakar, member of Voices of History Young Scholars at Work. This is our inaugural lecture session and we joined by most respected and renowned historian of India, Professor Sheerin Moosvi from Akbar Muslim University. Everyone of us who has ever read medieval India know that Professor Moosvi needs no introduction. As students of history, we all are familiar with her scholastic works and her contribution to medieval history of India. She authored around 4 books, the best known of which the Economy of the Mughal Empire, circa 1595, a statistical study published by Oxford University Press. In 1987, apart from it, People, Taxation and Trade in Mughal India, published by Oxford University Press in 2009. Episodes in the Life of Akbar, published by National Book Trust in 1994 and reprint many times and translated into many languages. Facets of the Great Revolt 1857 published by Tulika in 2020. So it is honor to have Professor Moosvi Madam among us to deliver a lecture about Akbar's India. So thank you ma'am for accepting our invitation. Before Moosvi Madam's presenting lecture, now I would like to request our beloved Professor Sutopa Chatterjee Sarkar, Professor of History and Coordinator of IQAC at West Bengal State University of Barasat, on whose inspiration I went to Indian History Congress held in Chennai last December and met Professor Moosvi Madam to speak a few words. Professor Chatterjee has done some pioneering work on the lower delta of Bengal, the fragile relation between marginal men and mangrove, and their various cultural outputs found their voice in her various works. She has also worked closely with renowned historian Borunde in her early days as a scholar and wrote Sundarban's Folk Deities, Monster and Mortals, published by Routledge. So please ma'am, to speak or a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really delighted. Good evening, Professor Moosvi.
Good evening.
Yes, my dear students and colleagues. It's really, I'm really very happy to see you all today in this platform. And it's my greatest pleasure to be part of this historical journey. History is not simply, which I always felt, is not simply a dry account of events that have happened in the past. Rather, it's a living narrative of the times. And this description is rich in the perspectives and insights it provides, interpreted from different points of view by different scholars. I greatly applaud the efforts of my fellow students to demystify these perspectives by holding such engaging discussions with eminent scholars and stalwarts. And Professor Moosvi is over here, and hosting them on a platform accessible to people the world around. It gives me immense pleasure today that my students are doing such a commendable venture. The basic objective of this forum is to encourage rational and scientific study of history based on available sources and their unbiased interpretation, Very glad to have you, Professor Moosvi. I met you in IDSK. You remember just 3 or 4 years back when you were here in Kolkata, and you are with us today. I would request Professor Moosvi to share with us from her vast experience and knowledge. And I would like to tell my students that listening to her will enable you to form a strong foundation of what is history and how it is to be looked at or explored. Once again, I would say all the best and all my best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sutapa Chatterjee.
Yes,
I'm most grateful to all your students and to you. And I'm sure they must have come about me through you. So I'm grateful to all of you for giving
ma'am, I
me.
remember Borun Babu talking about you, and for a long time.
Barita was
Yes, yes,
lovable person whom we lost.
yes.
So it's always a pleasure to be among the young ones who are our hopes of tomorrow.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And in the present circumstances in our country, it seems very important to let them follow the path of our great heroes in history and to learn about them, like Ashok, Akbar, and Nehru. When I was a child, all of us of my generation have only 3 heroes, whom I have already mentioned, beginning with Ashok, then Akbar, and then Nehru, whom at least I have the privilege of meeting, knowing, and even being beaten by a rose, which I still preserve. The black dead leaves of it are still in my dressing table. So, what was the reason for these 3 being our favorites? These were perhaps, of course, all of us have great respect for Mahatma Gandhi, but unfortunately, I was born after his martyrdom. And we know we have learned a lot, we have been taught a lot about him, and we still respect. But a sort of attachment which we feel, or we felt at least in our time, I hope that it still may continue, was with Ashok, Akbar, and Nehru. All the 3 who didn't consider our country only for their kingdom, but tried to make it some sort of a nation where all its citizens have a relationship or a concern with each other, besides having a concern with the country itself. And moreover, all the 3 believe totally in tolerance of all sorts of views. You may be a devotee of any god or many gods. You may be a total Nastic, not a Astic at all, or you may have some particular sort of views. The views are your personal, they have nothing to do with your relationship with other human beings. That was what, when my generation was growing, was the understanding, rather the prevailing understanding, where we never thought to which religion who belonged. Or religion was almost immaterial as far as relationship among us was concerned. I don't want to a sort of a autobiographical thing, but I will still say I studied, left many colleges or studied in many schools and colleges. And Mahila College was one where I was for 4 full years. Otherwise, since my father was transferred, I was transferred from place to place. Mahila College, Lucknow. And we have 6,000 girls over there, out of which there were not even 600 who belongs to what we say the Muslim community. We never thought which we are. And once, when there was an election, I contested against my own friend Madhuchanda Bakchi and won with 4,000 votes. Nobody thought about anyone's religion. We never thought about these things. And I still remember that I and I was another person, Zubeda, who was the vice president. Our president was absent on that day. It was uh, the day for Saraswati Puja, and both of us were doing the arti. And the wife of the education minister, who was Mr. Ali Zair, with whom I have some distant relationship, while I turned back, said, "Oh, I never knew you can also do arti." And my principal, Dr. Sabarwal, turned back and said, "Begum Sahab, perhaps you do not know. All my girls know how to do arti and how to do all types of worship. We don't believe in this all. Why can't Shireen do?" And you asked the name of the other person, and she asked and she said, "I'm Zubaida." I said, "Look, both of them belong to a particular, say, community or religion, but that makes no difference to our college." So that was the atmosphere in which we were grew. As I have said, the heroes of my generation were Ashok, Akbar, and Nehru. Today I have picked up Akbar. There are rather two reasons for it. One is that being a medievalist, I have studied more about Akbar, and my understanding or my knowledge about Ashoka, for not knowing Sanskrit, cannot be, or the languages of that time, not only Sanskrit, but say Pali and other, uh, is not, I'm not competent to speak. Nehru is too recent, and rather he is a part of our own life, not of the younger generation. He died only in 1964, 27th May, the day I remember I cried the whole evening. Anyway, he was for us, he was Chacha Nehru. So we have a different sort of a relationship, and I can be more, what you may say, objective while talking about Akbar, about whom I have only read in books and not have any personal information. What Abul Fazil wrote, which is all praise for Akbar, or what Badayuni wrote, which is only the criticism and rather maligning Akbar, is the source, are the sources of my information, besides some other writers of his time or those who wrote during his time, the contemporaries who wrote about him. The another reason for selecting Akbar today is that our present regime has decided that Akbar is most inconvenient, and therefore he is out of syllabus now, and I'm sure none of you will be reading about him because he has been taken away from the syllabi. Of course, neither Ashok nor Nehru nor Akbar can be accepted by those who try to use religious identity for gaining political gains. So that is a part, and I'm not going to talk about the present, where people are, there is an attempt to make people recognize each other by not anything else but what belief they're supposed to have. I'm sure you will agree with me that none of us selected or chosen our religion. We have been born in a family which for generations was following a particular type of belief. Uh, Luckily, I belong to a family where religion was never an identity, and where religion was supposed to be. I still remember my childhood while my aunt used to sit for 2 or 3 days before Diwali to make diyas for us, so that we used to have a old before it a house built before 1857, 3 storied, and therefore we have too many walls to put the diyas. I will only say that recently, while I shifted to Aligarh in this particular house, and I put the candles, of course not the diyas, on my walls, most of my neighbors were very annoyed with me. And some tried to ask, what religion do I believe? I said, none. My religion is humanity and not any particular religion. I'm not follower of, let's say, the person who observes any sort of rituals of any religion. So that's Akbar was certainly chosen by me for this reason, that he was a believer in what you will say tolerance for all. Not only tolerance for all, but equality for all. It's not only tolerating each other, but it is considering all equal, not bothering that what particular ideas one has, but or one is born into a particular family, but you have to uh, recognize the person by his own qualities or say disqualifications. One can say that Akbar, the reason why Akbar was like that was that he came from a particular background. He could have perhaps never forgotten where he was born, where Humayun has left his wife, pregnant wife, before Akbar's death, and where he was born. It was in the house of a Hindu ruler. Babar, while it comes to taking power or having countries, to conquer countries, it's not religion, it's your own interest which matters. And therefore, Humayun has no qualms in leaving his wife, pregnant wife, to someone who is a non-Muslim, a small ruler of his own Hindu and a small ruler of his own territory, and could give protection to his wife and his would-be child. So the very reason of this background makes it clear that even at that time, India has a tolerance. People were not identified by their religion, but by your personal relationship with it. And therefore, while Akbar has a sort of a nature, if you read about him, a tendency in him to keep on experimenting, to keep on trying to find out new things, and to experiment with whatever he comes along. Therefore, he built a country, he built a nation. I will say nation, not country alone, because conquering land and making a big empire is not important. But to make it a nation where people are linked with each other, people understand each other, people consider themselves to be the part of one nation is the most important thing. And right from his birth, he has learned that lesson that to be he has to be a human being first and treat others as a human being. But he has some other qualities in himself. Not only that he was a very good commander. He was a person who can lead an army. He has immense courage to fight back in worse circumstances, to be a very good, say, um, to identify who is worth what. And therefore, you will be finding, if you start reading Abul Fazl, Akbarnama, you will find everything about Akbar where he is being praised for his administration, for how very well organized the country was, how he divided the whole country, the whole empire of his, into provinces or subas, and then how the subas were further divided into sarkars, and how the sarkars were further divided into parganas, and how the administration, there was a sort of a hierarchy of say administrative officers, beginning from villages, group of villages making a pargana, group of parganas making a sarkar, and group of sarkars making a suba. And how he tried to identify himself with his subjects. And therefore, he would be going in anonymity. It is well known or well described by Abul Fazl and Badayuni both. Abul Fazl praising him for those things in his Akbarnama, and Badayuni cutting joke of him and rather criticizing him for those things. That he goes for a mela or a festival in a disguise, and he has been taken as a thief and was beaten. He didn't identify himself, was ready to be beaten up, and once somebody recognized who he is, and everybody started either flying away or seeking his pardon, he just laughed and he said, "This is no problem at all. You haven't really broken any of my bones. I'm still in one part and I have become stronger after your beating. So there's nothing. I'm also ready to have a sort of a duel with you if somebody think that he can. I could have defended myself, but I didn't. Because if I would have defended, you might have been got injured. And if anyone wants to take a duel, I'm ready for it." So it was not only that Akbar treated all people of his empire or his country with a sort of an affection which a ruler should have, but he was also a very good uh, fighter, a very good commander, and a very good man. A man who believes in humanity, who is ready. If you look about the Braj Bhum, all the temples have been built by him. He would not be bothered whatever the theological Islam might say. He would care the least, and he will not only give grants but will also go to the temples. He won't make any performances or he won't do any worships, but he will go visit, and if he finds anything technically or architecturally to be improved, he immediately come forward to do that. Look at his nobility. There will be no difference. Not only that he will be marrying all the Rajput princes, because as he himself said, the Rajput are the most, or the say the best uh, warriors, those who can fight, those who really have the skill of worship into their blood. But because he really wanted, to have Indian wives. He is in India, he has now nothing to do with any other country, and therefore he will prefer to have Indian wives instead of having it, whether it is Jodhabai or whether anybody. They were a large number, the big haram, but the major ones will be those who are coming from the Rajput clans, who really supported him, fought for him, and who were responsible, whether somebody is helping him like Todarmal to have all the technology of war, and somebody with valor like Mansingh and his family. So for him, it was a question of building a nation where everyone have equal rights and equal, uh, say, facilities to do whatever he likes to. Of course, people will be poor, people will be rich, people will be of medium classes, but everybody is gaining or getting what aspires for or what he is competent to achieve. So that was one thing which makes Akbar very important. And then his idea of what we may say, of course, we have very few people belonging to other religions. The two major religions by his time were Islam and Hinduism. And his idea was that if the question of identifying a person by religion or discriminating a person according to his religion or for his religion is not there, the country can really gain strength, can become powerful, can become peaceful, and can be a real strong country to face everything. And that will be the best for his subjects or for his countrymen. He never considered his subjects as subjects, but he always considered them as countrymen. You find that how he goes to Brindaban, how he most of the times goes into a mela and is beaten up because he was not recognized and people thought he's trying to steal something. If you read about him, you will be coming a large number of accounts of that in nearly all the sources of his time. There is no source which will not be talking about that. The limit was that this sort of a country where people are living with friendship among themselves, with equality among themselves, at least the social equality, the religious equality, if not the financial equality, became so well known and so admired or at least noted by other countries that while in Iran there was a king or a Shahenshah who was discriminating among Shias and Sunnis, a very well-known poet left Iran and came to India. His name or his, say, pen name as a poet was Urfi Shirazi, since he came from Shiraz. And I would like to just recite the translation of one of his couplets. So you should live, Urfi, with people good and bad, that when you die, the Muslim washes your body with holy water and the Hindu cremates it. That was the importance. Even in the 16th century, people in Iran or in other countries, Iran, Iraq, or whatever be the countries known to, who were knowing about us and our country, were thinking that there is a country where human beings are treated like human beings and not identified according to their religion. And therefore, if they have discrimination in their own country, they will be, first, say, trying to leave that and to be uh, coming to this country. Urfi came here, though he never took any employment under Akbar. He was too, for the time being, he was very close to Hakim Abul Fatah Gilani, Akbar's very important minister. But then he came out of that. He couldn't just have the courtier's temperament, and he lived his life independently. independently. But if you look at his writings or his couplets, you will say, facing non Islam and Islam in the idol temple and Kaaba, at ease with both drink and poison, such is the religion of love. So one can see how uh, that something, as I've already said, don't say, Urfi, that there is no greater sinner on this earth than me. For by a weighty hadith, that is the Prophet saying, this is mere bargaining about one's uniqueness. And what he further tries to talk about is that the there will be tomorrow when they will summon the practitioners of all crafts, they will demand full account of their conduct from the Muslim divine as well as the Brahman. So for Urfi, the question was not that. He says, Hinduism, no. Islam, no. Islam mixed with Hinduism, no. Since he is a contemporary of Akbar, or he remained at Akbar's court, what Akbar said, Sulhe Kul, for him it was Islam mixed with Hinduism. None tells me what is God's purpose in his inventing us. So for him, the question was, or for Akbar's India, the question was, human beings are human beings. They are not to be recognized by what their beliefs are. Your beliefs are personal to you. Religion is an extremely personal matter. It cannot be, or rather, can become a criteria to identify human beings. My ideas to mine, I believe in no religion, all right. Nobody, my mother was offering prayers. She never asked me that I should also pray. And I was never asked by anyone in my family that what religion should I have or what should I do. I was just let free to do whatever I like to. And if I don't want to pray, nobody ever asked that observe a rosa or observe a. And there was certainly a celebration one day, and when I was 9 years old, that there should be a rosa kushai, my first fast in Ramzan, and that was the first and the last. And my mother used to laugh. She never fasted herself, and she said, I and Shireen believe in that if God has given us food to eat, why shall we fast and trouble ourselves? So the question is that what we want our country to be, what we want our future generations to learn, what we want those who we say the hopes of tomorrow, people like you all, the students who are the younger ones, who are the hopes of our tomorrow. We have to be human beings. We have to think like Ashok, Akbar, and Nehru. We cannot think that country can become great, our motherland can achieve any praise, any or say greatness by making it a narrow-minded, a non-thinking and unscientific, because no religion has any science. All religions are unscientific. There is no religion which has no miracles. And the minute you come to miracles, you forget about your scientific temper. What Nehru used to call people in India, Bachon, you should all have a scientific temper. Don't believe in anything if you think it cannot be proved. I can believe, I still remember some of his talks while he was talking to children. I was one of them who most of the time always went to hear him, and he would say, "Don't believe in anything. Once you have seen that the ice melts and it becomes water, only then you can believe that, of course, by freezing it or by cooling it down, it can become ice." And then he will then add another scientific information. Don't think it can become just by freezing or bringing it cold. You have to add a little of salt into it or potassium nitrate into it to make it freeze. So the way he used to explain. Similarly, you will be finding that Akbar would make people learn by their own experiences. While it comes to his own son, he is not ready to give him any religious instruction, to Jahangir, to Salim, or not to force him to do anything, but he would like him, he would say that I want my son to have a scientific temper, a temper of a philosopher. I call, in our language, we call it scientific. He said a philosophical temper, where you first make, you really find that there are not beliefs, there ought to be knowledge. Knowledge tested by experiments. So the problem of today, where we find our country, blessed motherland, whom we learn right from, of course, there will be any human being who is not free. I won't call it a human being if he can't love his own motherland. We call it motherland, the mere fact that how we identify it. You know, the mother gives you all its affection, and you are supposed to give all your commitment and your affection to your mother or to your mother. We should believe we all are human beings first. Religion is a personal matter. We can agree to disagree on that, and we can agree to disagree on many other things. You might like another political party or another political leader. I may like my own party. There is an open election and voting. You can vote for whom you like. The one who can gain more supporters. But this election, if there is an election, it ought to be fair. There should not be an EVM